Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Cherry Chen, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this journey. This podcast dives into the real world of nonprofit leadership, sharing inspiring stories, experiences, and the truth about what it takes to operate a nonprofit successfully. Think of this as your mastermind session on the go. Now, without further ado, please welcome today's nonprofit leader. Hello everyone, welcome to the Unfiltered Nonprofit Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Elizabeth Fowler, the Executive Director for the Canadian Ophthalmological Society, COS for short. Let's go with that. Yes, welcome Elizabeth.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we talk a little bit about you first? What's your background? How did you end up being in this sector of nonprofit leadership now?
Sure.
Yeah.
I will say that I didn't have like a straight path towards it. I fell into some things, but I've been lucky that I've had a very interesting career. I started with a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science, and then did another diploma in Institutional Administration, which is administration in the not-for-profit sector, and that led me to a job at the YMCA, which I loved. I don't know how much detail you want me to go in, so I can skip over things, or I can kind of...
You can keep going. If it is too long, then we'll trim some of that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from there, I wound up doing an MBA because I wanted to do something that would open a lot of doors for me.
Yeah.
And that brought me to working in the pharmaceutical industry. And I worked there for 2 or 3 years, and then met a really wonderful mentor named Chris Ward, and he had his own consulting firm called Ward Health Strategies. And so I spent my 30s working as a consultant, and our areas of focus were health policy, where pharmaceutical and patient groups intersect. And so that allowed me to get to understand really in depth some of the pharmaceutical industry issues, but also to understand the power of the patient voice and to understand a little bit more some of the issues that they have. And that led me to working in the government at the Canadian Institutes of Health Research in research administration, which is a fascinating position. And that led me to becoming a director of research at the Kidney Foundation of Canada. So those last two very much not-for-profit. And then from there, I was asked if I'd apply for the CEO of the Canadian Ophthalmological Society. And after giving it some thought and wondering if I was up to the challenge, I accepted. And so in October, I will have been here for 5 years now.
Oh, wow. It's definitely not a straight line.
It's not.
Yeah, so I wanted to get deep into our conversation, like even from the beginning. So I asked you earlier that if there is any challenge that you've ever experienced in your career. I'm sure there is none.
Oh, no.
Because you're such a positive person.
It's just been smooth sailing from the beginning.
Yeah.
There have been lots of challenges. Most recently, and probably one that a lot of people listening to the podcast can identify with, is trying to get through COVID and how to continue to ensure that your organization can run and provide value to your members, which is something we keep very much front of mind is we're here for our members, and what do they need and how could we provide value while trying to deal with a global pandemic. And so one of the biggest thing that we do every year is an annual meeting, and the annual meeting takes place in June every year. And as you know, the pandemic, everything shut down in March. And so we were faced with trying to figure out how to pivot, how to continue to provide this continuing professional education for our members, as well as keeping our organization afloat. We were lucky that we were already set up to work virtually. We had implemented those systems, even though we were still going into an office pre-pandemic. So the switch to online was relatively seamless. And we put a lot of effort into trying to make sure we maintained those good connections amongst our team members. And we did that through little things. We'd have a team meeting once a week, and someone would chair it. A different person would.
Okay, cool.
And as part of that, it was the first little thing was give us 5 slides that are of interest to you. And so they could be personal slides, they could be things about their work, they could be, I really like this soccer player, or whatever the case may be. But it allowed us to maintain a bit of a personal connection while being distant. And it was, something that everyone could find something that they felt comfortable sharing. Because not everyone, unlike me, who will overshare whenever I can, not everyone is comfortable with that. So the team pivoted extremely well, and I'm so grateful for the effort that they put in. And the board pivoted as well, and immediately started looking at policies for how can ophthalmology continue to deliver their care in a pandemic setting. What are the implications for surgery? So then that's bilateral cataract surgery, doing both at the same time came into, so it's just less time, people coming into the office, that kind of thing. And then there was our annual meeting, and we decided to pivot to a virtual meeting. So it was all of the finding the right platform, trying to keep all of our sponsors. So we were very creative in trying to ensure that they had good return on their investment, because that's important for them. And when they sponsor us, they come to the meeting, they have a booth in the exhibit hall, they get a lot of face-to-face time with the physicians. So we tried to create opportunities for that within our virtual online meeting.
So let's pause there for a second. Sure. So you said you're being really creative with your sponsors, right? I know you have a group of members that are really highly sought after by the pharmaceutical companies. Yeah. So my question is that how do you keep these sponsors happy every year and keep them coming back every single year? Yeah. Because what I've seen people sponsoring our event, and then sponsors just kind of expect everything being done for them, or I've sponsored events and they're not doing anything for us at all. So there is a wide spectrum of expectation, and how do you tailor that and keep them coming back every single year?
So I think part of it is an acknowledgement that we need them and they need us. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a base, and so we are truly partners in this. So we have to maintain open lines of communication. Mm-hmm. So if an ophthalmologist calls me, I call them back. If an industry partner asks for a meeting, I take it. It doesn't I make sure that if there is an issue or even just an idea or something, I will explore them, because they're important to us, and we want to make sure that we maintain a really good relationship. We have a very elaborate, it's not the right word, but detailed sponsorship prospectus, and we review it every year, and we try to, and we meet with every sponsor face to face at our meeting every year. Mm-hmm. And so we ask them, how has your experience been? What can we do better? What has gone well? What has gone less well? And we try different things. I'm one of the things that we try to promote within the team is it's okay to fail, because you need to fail if you're going to innovate, right? Yep. So it's okay to try new things, and if it works, fantastic. We've learned something. We've got a brand new idea, and it's all great. But if it doesn't work, you don't have to, go home in shame and be worried that someone's going to get upset with you. You tried something and it didn't work. Okay, so what have we learned, and let's move on. And so we do listen to them, and sometimes it's little small things, like changing the timing of an early morning meeting that they've sponsored, because they're like, it's 6:30 in the morning, no one comes, so okay, can we push it and push the rest of it? So we do that. We try to create opportunities for them to have face-to-face interaction as well. There's
members.
There's a president's luncheon in which we invite, the members of the planning committee, all our keynote speakers, and then depending on the level you've sponsored, you get a certain number of seats at the table as well. So we have a welcome reception. It's the one time we give out free alcohol. Invite everyone along. And then there's the exhibit hall, which if you sponsor, generally you will do a booth at the exhibit hall, and we take a lot of time and effort in creating the floor plan to make sure that there's no one in some dark little corner that no one's going to be able to see. So if there is a dark little corner, we'll put, the coffee or the dessert station there, and then we just try to be very careful about how we make the floor plan so that everyone gets an opportunity to have that traffic to their booth, because that's really important to them, obviously. But then there are, as it's an accredited conference, so there are rules about, how much interaction and how much marketing can be made available, and there has to be this strict delineation between education and that, and so we stick to that. So we are open to ideas. We try to listen to our sponsors. And we try to make the experience as positive as we can for them, while adhering to these our own policies as well as those of the Royal College.
That's awesome. Like, it's like a little bit of I guess an art, essentially balancing and making it a win-win-win situation.
Yeah.
It's not just you and the sponsor, and also the members as well, right? Providing value to them.
Yeah, and there are things that we won't do. So the American Association in the States, they're much bigger and their conference is huge, but they sell, I think, every piece of wall space and elevator and escalator so people can brand it. And our board has often said, it's like, we're not going to be the AAO of the North, and so we're very careful as well about selling those types of opportunities. We try to make sure that you're not bombarded with marketing the minute you walk in, that it's our meeting, and obviously it needs to be sponsored, and we try to provide the space for them. But yes, it is a pretty delicate balance. And,
cool. That's really cool. Earlier today, you also mentioned that one of your biggest setback is that you have to choose to leave a job that you like.
Yeah.
Because the leader of the organization it's dragging the Titanic along. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, it was one of my favorite jobs, other than the COS. Yeah. And I would have stayed there for a long time. But this is, you sometimes have these experiences that are impactful and make you realize truly what's important to you. And this was the first time where I realized the importance of leadership and what kind of impact they can have on every part of the organization, from the lowest to the president. And this person was determined to make some changes, and it didn't seem to matter who told the person that they didn't think it was the right decision to make. And he was going across the country. He was doing town halls. There were surveys. There was internal staff surveys, and the data, as I saw it, was that this wasn't a good idea, and it didn't seem to make a difference. He would say, the majority of the people in the room, they all said they loved the idea. And I was like, I was at that meeting. There were like 80% were questions about why it was a good idea, and 20% were cautiously optimistic, but I guess you hear what you want to sometimes. So it became clear that the organization as a whole was going to change fundamentally, and that the work of the organization was going to change. And I didn't think I could continue to work happily for someone who cared so little about the input that they were getting. They believed so strongly that they were right, that they didn't take any input, and it's impacted how I lead a little bit as well, because it has made me a much more collaborative leader. I think in general I'm always been fairly collaborative, but it really reinforced to me that it's important to listen to the people you work with and to the community, and it doesn't mean you change your mind all the time, but if someone has a difference of opinion, that's very valid and it's worth listening to, and it can help very much inform your decision. And the other thing is, if the more people you include in a decision that's going to impact them, the more likely they are to feel comfortable with the decision. So I think it's just common sense as well. But ultimately, I realized nothing I said would change, and this organization was going to to go off in a direction I wasn't comfortable with, and so I chose to leave instead. I wasn't the only one, but I was one of the first ones to leave. So, and it still makes me sad because I did love that job, but I do think it was the right decision ultimately.
There is a saying that actually, you know what? There is a book that I'm reading right now. It's called Radical Candor, and I mentioned that in my previous podcast earlier today as well. And yeah, it is exactly what you're talking about, being collaborative. But you need a strong foundation to be able to be candid with each other and talk about the criticism that you have, right? So you mentioned that, and I see it in our conversation, that it's shaped you being how you are being a leader right now in COS. And you implemented a lot of policies and initiatives. Tell us a little bit about your initiatives, because it helped COS become the preferred employer.
Well, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Our goal is to become, a preferred employer in the Ottawa area, because there are lots of not-for-profits, and it is very easy for people to move. And I will give credit to the team, because a lot of these ideas came from the team, and they were great. And so we've slowly implemented them over the last couple of years. My favorite one probably is the health fund, which so if you've been with the COS for 6 months or longer, in April you receive your annual health fund. And we chose April very strategically because our annual meeting is in June. It's those 3 months leading up to it that are very stressful, and people need a little bit of sunshine. And so the health fund is a $500 Visa gift card, and people can use it towards whatever will improve their physical or mental health. So it's entirely up to them if it's getting extra massages, or a really great chair, or offsetting their gym membership, or paying off debt because that's been weighing on their mind. Whatever will improve their health in one way or another, they can use that money for. So that's one thing we've done. We've implemented a conference fund. We've always had professional development dollars, but it's somewhat limited, and it would be enough to pay for your registration and maybe some meals, but not enough to actually go somewhere. So every 2 years you can go to a conference somewhere. Lots of people have chosen CSAE in the past as their conference of choice, and it's just a separate bucket of money that will offset the costs of travel and hotel, and it just allows people to actually make use of their professional development fund, because prior to that people just weren't using it unless there happened to be a great conference in Ottawa. They weren't able to do more than pay for their registration. So that's been another. And then another one is it's a designation policy. So if you would like to pursue a designation that will help you in your job, the COS will pay for up to $5,000 to help offset the costs of that. And we will do, there are a number of rules around it. You have to have been with the COS for a certain amount of time, et cetera. But in general, if 2 or 3 people have taken advantage of that. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and I think, it's, all of these things are, I hope, help make the COS a preferred employer. But someone said, the designation policy, aren't you worried that they're going to get this extra benefit and then they're going to leave? And that's certainly always a risk. But I also think the job of a manager is to help develop the people that you're working with and try to build them up, build their confidence, build their skills. And if they leave, it breaks your heart, but at the same time, I feel like it's one of the most important things that you can do is really help them fly to somewhere else. So, yeah.
Hello, Unfiltered Nonprofit listeners. It's Cherry Chan here, your host and the CEO of Otis Financial Solutions. Let's talk about something that can be a major headache for many nonprofits: managing your finances. Are you feeling overwhelmed by budgeting, financial reports, or keeping up with compliance? You're not alone. Many nonprofit leaders struggle with these issues too, but you don't have to. At Otis Financial Solutions, we specialize in making financial management easy for nonprofit leaders and associations leaders. For over 18 years, we've been turning financial stress into peace of mind. Our services are designed to meet your unique needs, from day-to-day bookkeeping to strategic financial planning. Imagine having more time to focus on your mission, knowing that your finances are in experts' hands,
If that sounds like something you need, I'm offering a no obligation 20-minute consultation. Let's discuss your challenges and explore how Otis can help you achieve your goals. Visit nonprofitcfo.ca to book your call today. Let's simplify your financial management together. Oh, I was talking to another executive director earlier. So he used to work for this tobacco company, and tobacco company generally pays really, really well, right?
Yeah.
So then it creates these we call lifer. So they are at the role forever and they will not change. And there's in my world, in auditing firm, my firm is not auditing, but back in the career as an auditor, one of the things that they talk about a lot is that, hey, if someone is at the job for a long time, it could be an audit risk.
Oh.
Or maybe not taking vacation, it's also an audit risk.
Yeah.
Because then why are you not taking vacation? Or why are you at that role? Because if you have changes, then you have a new set of eyes seeing the system or seeing the process, and it would actually help improve the system as a whole. And obviously that's people dependent, because some people just follow exactly what was being done before, not creative. But sometimes when a new person comes in, it actually helps with the transition and change, and then see things in a different set of lens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. And then so I know you came from a background of exercise, and I always ask my guests, because I think mental health is one thing that is on everybody's mind, especially after COVID. There's a lot of mental health issues, and I had a client who committed suicide during COVID. And
that's awful.
I tend to believe that he exercised a lot, but I don't think he was in the right mindset at the time. Broke my heart because he's so young. He's like 4 years younger than me. He's in his mid-30s, and he had a good career, and he had investments. He's wealthy. So the question that I want to ask, back to our question, is that, hey, how do you maintain your sanity? Because you're responsible for everything, and you're also responsible to answer to the board, and then you're responsible to answer to your team.
Yeah, I do feel the weight of that sometimes, and there are days when I'm just like, I'm tired of making decisions. I know. But I try very hard to maintain a solid work-life balance, and I do that mostly for myself, but also because I want to set the example. You know, I'm lucky to work with some very dedicated people, and often they'll be like, well, I'm just going to keep checking my emails when I'm on vacation, and I keep trying to encourage them not to. And so that is one thing, and I'll get to exercise, but if I'm on vacation, I don't look at my emails, because the minute you do, then at night you're thinking about work. So I say, you know, if it's urgent, you can text me, but otherwise I am disconnected from work, and I'm disconnected. And I know that doesn't work for all boards. Again, I'm lucky that my board thinks that's a positive thing. And then I try to spend as much time as I can with my family. My son's 18 now, so he's less reliant on me, but where I can, I'll go shoot some hoops with him, or he puts up with me. He's 6'6", and he's very, very athletic. And so
wow, he's tall.
I cannot keep up with him, but I do find exercise for me is, I call it my medicine, because it is what it gives my brain a rest. You know, I find it, and I know there's endorphins and there's all this stuff happening, but I just know it makes me feel better, and it allows me to disconnect from work and really just be in the moment and doing what I'm doing, and it just makes your body and your mind feel good. So whenever I can, I do prioritize it. I schedule it in my day. So if I know that I have to work through lunch, for example, because I like to work out at lunch, but if I have to, then I'll try to find another time. Either I'll wake up earlier or I'll work out afterwards. So it is a priority. And I think if you want to do it consistently, you just have to make it a priority for yourself.
Absolutely. I found that from running, not that I'm a runner to begin with. I started running just last week for a few times, but every time at running, I'm only focusing on not cursing myself. Why did I choose to run?
Why does it hurt so much?
I know. Why did I, like, what was I thinking? Why did I choose this workout over, like, staying at home? There's no mosquitoes, nothing. Anyway, but it was afterwards, I felt really good.
Yeah.
It was actually a lot better than just lifting weights at home.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it just made me happier the last week for no
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, and if you get past the point where it's painful and it just becomes easy, so I used to run. I was never a big runner, but I like to do half marathons.
Wow.
They were a nice distance because you know it took a while, but it wasn't like the crazy marathon.
Yeah.
And I found that you'd go out and you'd get to this place where your brain just kind of floated along, and if I had a work problem, all of a sudden a solution would come to me while I was running, and
okay, cool.
or if I there was an issue with my partner, or like it was a really somehow it freed up some space to allow your head to think about other things, and I always left runs much calmer and more centered and happy because I was done.
Oh, okay. So my happy place is beyond a 5 kilometer because I would stop. I would stop cursing at 5 kilometers if I keep going, and then my thinking time would be 5 to 10 kilometers. So I'll push myself for 10K. Okay.
Well, you don't have to, but I think just if you keep running, then you get past the cursing part of it, and it
Yeah.
becomes a little bit easier.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, last question, I promise. Felt like I kept you long enough. Last question that I have is, what is the biggest, well, it's not what it is. You mentioned earlier that you implemented a couple of systems in the past.
Yes.
And how was that experience?
So you want me to talk about the big fail, don't
Yes,
you?
yes. I want you to talk about both good and bad, right?
Yeah, sure. So we have. At the Kidney Foundation, I was lucky to be able to. We used to do the grant system was all manual. It was enormously time consuming, and we implemented an online version, and it went very well. So that was a success of implementing. And I would say the biggest learning is it's going to take twice as long as you expect, and there are going to be about 100 times more glitches, and so you just have to go in recognizing that. So our first annual meeting that was virtual, we used a platform and we had quite a small meeting. The second year, and we only did 2 online meetings, but the second year, we decided to really swing for the fences. And we went with a company that was developing. They had the meeting software, but they didn't have the exhibit hall software. But they promised us that we could have a 3D exhibit hall. And this was one of the pieces of feedback we got from our supporters, was that the first year's exhibit hall was, it didn't provide the interaction that they wanted. Like they would have their booth, but it was 2D, and the physician had to enter the booth. They couldn't see who was walking by and send them a little chat. And so this 3D exhibit hall was supposed to increase the look and feel, so it looked a lot more realistic, and then also was supposed to allow them to see who was just walking by and to be able to reach out and say, "Oh, hello, doctor," this and
just like in real life.
Just like in real life. And there was also supposed to be some chat rooms and coffee stations and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, cool.
And they were not ready for us.
Oh.
And at the end of it, the president of the company, he said, "Liz, we were only a week behind." And I said, "Well, that's great, but you knew for 6 months the day of our meeting, and so being a week behind didn't help us." So at the end of the second day, I think I had 1,200 emails just about the exhibit hall.
Oh,
it
wow.
It was, really, really stressful. And leading up to the meeting, we knew that things weren't happening when they should. And we were stuck. It was too late to make a change at this point. So we had to figure out, how do we make this work? And so the whole team pitched in, and there was 2 people who helped with online registration. It was all supposed to be done through this portal. They couldn't make it work.
Oh, no.
So 2 people, they learned the software, they got it done, they answered emails, they got on the phone with people, they got them registered, they made it work. They got people who needed to get in. There were, before each, and there were multiple plenaries happening at the same time, so there were multiple pre-rooms. And this company was supposed to have the tech people as well as sort of meeting planners there to help. And so all the the whole team, okay, you do this meeting room, you do this meeting room, you do this meeting room. So they got all that done. And then with the exhibit hall, they got some of the functionality, but not all of it. And so the scientific portion of the meeting wound up being fine. I don't think anyone who wasn't behind the scenes really realized how all of the, the ducks with their feet scrambling underneath. I think they just saw the ducks moving placidly along, but it was crazy underneath. But the exhibit hall, it was very limited what they could do. So there was a lot of just damage control afterwards. And we sent out personalized letters to everyone. We offered refunds because we weren't able to follow through on what we had offered. And then we had many conversations with the developer. And I'm not going to mention their name, but we will never use them again, and we certainly have. If people ask us, how was your experience with this person, we just tell them the truth, and maybe things have changed again. It was ready a week later, but it was quite stressful, but I don't regret it, because I think it was one of, we tried, right? We were we can just do what we did last year and it will be fine, and we know it's a known thing. But no, the COS, we have a reputation for being innovative and trying to be at the cutting edge, and so let's keep doing that, let's try. And so it didn't 100% work, but we learned a lot, and we survived, and I think we came out okay in the end, and I think because of our transparency with our partners and supporters, they were very understanding. They were extremely kind, and they came back the following year. So I'm grateful for that.
Wow, you turned a really bad situation, because the emails that you get into something that is positive.
Oh, it was, and increasingly strident subject lines. This is not working. It's bold. It was, and then the developers stopped taking our calls because we were you have to fix this, and they just stopped showing up.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Not even taking ownership.
Yeah. They did give us 50% off the cost of it because they recognized that they hadn't delivered on everything. So they did accept some responsibility for it, but I don't think they understood the gravity of the situation from our perspective.
Yeah.
Because we're a group who really tries for excellence, and this was not up to the standards that we wanted. It was important to us, and I'm not sure they realized that as the importance.
Well, you live and learn, right?
We sure did.
Yeah, you win some and you lose some.
You do, yeah.
Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you so much for spending the afternoon and almost dinner time with us, and really appreciate you being here and sharing your golden nuggets with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
As we wrap up, I want to share a bit more about what we do at Otis Financial Solutions. For the past 18 years, Otis Financial Solutions has been dedicated to enhancing the financial management and strategic planning capabilities of hundreds of associations and nonprofits across Canada. Our extensive experience has enabled us to deliver tailored financial solutions that drive growth and enhance sustainability for nonprofits and associations. If you are interested in learning more about how Otis Financial Solutions can support your organization, I would love to offer you a no-obligation 20-minute call. Let's discuss your unique challenges and explore how we would be able to help you achieve your goals.